"I think it's finally working," she said while her husband Adrian Vale kept his eyes closed, his breathing slow, steady, convincing. Beside him, his wife whispered again into the darkness. "I think it's finally working." Adrian's heartbeat nearly stopped. The room smelled faintly of lavender candles and expensive wine from dinner downstairs. Rain tapped softly against the massive bedroom windows overlooking the city skyline. Then another voice answered, a man's voice, low, calm, dangerous. Much longer until he stops waking up. Adrian felt ice spread through his chest. His wife sighed softly. Not long. The pills are getting stronger. For a moment, Adrian forgot how to breathe pills, then suddenly everything made sense. The exhaustion, the blackouts, the strange dizziness after dinner every night for 6 months. Adrian Vale, one of the youngest billionaires in New York, had been falling asleep earlier and earlier. At first he blamed stress, then work, then insomnia. But now, lying motionless in his own bed, he finally understood. Someone had been drugging him, and the person doing it was his wife. Adrian heard the sound of a wine glass being placed onto the nightstand. Then the man spoke again. "When he dies, the money transfers immediately." "Yes," his wife whispered. "Everything goes to me." Silence. Then she laughed quietly. The same laugh Adrian once believed he would spend the rest of his life protecting. Just have to make it look natural. Adrian's fingers curled slowly beneath the blanket. Every instinct inside him screamed to jump up immediately, to confront them, to scream, to destroy everything in the room. But instead, he stayed perfectly still. Because for the first time that night, Adrian realized something terrifying. If they knew he was awake, he might not survive until morning. 3 years earlier, Adrian Vale's life looked untouchable. At 38 years old, he owned one of the largest cybersecurity companies in America, private jets, luxury penthouses, magazine covers, investments worth billions to the public. Adrian represented success itself. And standing beside him at every event was his beautiful wife, Vanessa Vale, elegant, intelligent, charming, the kind of woman who could walk into a room and instantly own it without saying a word. They met during a charity gala in Chicago. Adrian fell in love within weeks. Vanessa made him feel calm in a world constantly trying to consume him. At least that's what he believed. But wealth changes relationships, especially when money becomes power. And Adrian had too much power. Over time, his work consumed everything: long nights, international meetings, security contracts, private investors. He spent more time speaking to executives than to his wife. But Adrian never imagined Vanessa would betray him. Not like this. 6 months before that terrifying night, strange things began happening. He became unusually tired after dinner. Sometimes he barely remembered walking upstairs. Some mornings he woke up feeling drugged, heavy, disconnected. One night he collapsed asleep during an important business call. Another time he nearly crashed his car after blacking out briefly at a traffic light. Doctors blamed exhaustion, stress, sleep disorders. Vanessa acted concerned every single time. "You work too hard," she always told him gently. "Maybe you need to slow down." And Adrian believed her, because he trusted her completely. Until the night he accidentally drank less wine than usual during dinner. That was the first night he stayed awake long enough to hear the truth. The next morning, Adrian pretended nothing had happened. He kissed Vanessa goodbye, smiled normally, even complimented her breakfast. Inside, however, his entire world was collapsing. The moment Vanessa left the penthouse, Adrian accessed the home security system remotely from his office. Every room in the penthouse was monitored except the bedrooms and bathrooms. At least officially. Years earlier, Adrian secretly installed hidden backup microphones throughout the apartment after receiving threats from a competitor. Vanessa never knew. For the first time in years, Adrian activated them. That evening, he deliberately poured out most of his wine while pretending to drink it. An hour later, he returned to bed pretending to be half asleep. At exactly 11:17 p.m., the penthouse elevator opened. Footsteps approached the bedroom. Then Adrian heard him. "The other man, you said he was unconscious." "He is," Vanessa whispered. Adrian's blood boiled beneath the blankets. The man laughed softly. "You know," he said, "it's almost too easy." Adrian listened carefully. The voice sounded familiar somehow. Then Vanessa said something that shattered him completely. "Once Adrian dies, nobody will suspect anything. The doctors already think he has sleep complications, man chuckled. After the funeral, Vanessa answered without hesitation, we disappear together. Adrian felt physically sick. Then finally, he recognized the voice, Marcus Reed, his business partner, his closest friend for 11 years. Adrian nearly opened his eyes immediately. Marcus had built the company beside him from the beginning. They vacationed together, celebrated birthdays together. Marcus even stood beside Adrian during his wedding. And now, he was sleeping with Adrian's wife while planning his murder. Adrian lay motionless while rage burned through every part of him. But beneath the rage, another emotion slowly emerged, fear. Because these people weren't simply having an affair, they were planning an execution. Over the next week, Adrian carefully gathered evidence. He installed hidden cameras throughout the penthouse, copied Vanessa's phone data remotely, tracked Marcus's movements. What he discovered horrified him. The sleeping pills were only the beginning. Vanessa had been increasing the dosage gradually for months, but recently, Marcus convinced her to escalate things. Adrian discovered encrypted messages discussing stronger substances, heart medication, sedatives, compounds that could mimic cardiac failure. Adrian stared at the screen in disbelief. They had been slowly poisoning him, not just drugging him, killing him. And they were doing it carefully enough to avoid suspicion. Every dinner, every glass of wine, every loving gesture from Vanessa now felt monstrous. Yet Adrian continued pretending. He acted exhausted nightly, pretended to black out, pretended not to notice Marcus visiting after midnight. But the deeper Adrian investigated, the darker everything became. Marcus wasn't simply after Vanessa. He was drowning in debt, secret gambling losses, illegal investments, millions owed to dangerous people. Adrian's death would solve everything. Vanessa would inherit the fortune. Marcus would gain control of the company through emergency succession agreements. Together, they would become untouchable. Adrian finally understood. This wasn't emotional betrayal. It was business, cold, calculated, professional. And suddenly, Adrian realized something even worse. If they suspected he knew the truth, they might kill him immediately. 3 nights later, Vanessa prepared Adrian's favorite dinner, steak. Red wine, soft jazz playing quietly in the background. The entire scene felt surreal. Adrian watched his wife move gracefully through candlelight while knowing she planned to murder him. You seem happier lately, Vanessa said softly. Adrian smiled faintly. Maybe I'm finally sleeping better. Vanessa poured wine into his glass carefully. Adrian noticed it immediately, a tiny hesitation. Glance, just long enough. That was the moment she added something. Adrian lifted the glass slowly and deliberately switched it while reaching for his phone. Vanessa didn't notice. She drank from the poisoned glass herself, only a small amount, but enough. Within 30 minutes, Vanessa became visibly dizzy, her movements slowed. You okay? Adrian asked calmly. Vanessa blinked repeatedly. I suddenly feel tired. Stared directly into her eyes. Strange, he said quietly. That's been happening to me for months. For the first time in years, Vanessa looked afraid, real fear. She excused herself quickly and rushed toward the bathroom. Adrian remained seated silently, his expression calm, controlled, dangerous. Because now he knew something important. Vanessa never expected him to fight back. The next evening, Adrian set his trap. He invited Marcus to the penthouse for drinks. Vanessa looked nervous immediately. Marcus tried acting normal. But Adrian noticed everything now. The eye contact, the tension, the hidden panic beneath their smiles. Adrian poured whiskey for everyone personally. Wine tonight, he said casually. Marcus laughed awkwardly, trying something new, something like that. The conversation remained painfully artificial. Then Adrian finally spoke. You know what fascinates me most about betrayal? Silence filled the room instantly. Vanessa's face changed slightly. Marcus forced a smile. What do you mean? Adrian leaned back calmly. It's never strangers who destroy you. Neither of them answered. Adrian continued. It's always the people closest to you. Vanessa gripped her glass tightly now. Marcus's jaw tightened. Then Adrian pressed a button beneath the table. Audio filled the penthouse instantly. Vanessa's voice, clear, terrifying. The pills are getting stronger. Froze completely. Then his own voice echoed through the speakers. How much longer until he stops waking up? Vanessa's face lost all color. Marcus stood abruptly. Adrian, sit down. For the first time since the nightmare began. Adrian stopped pretending. His voice was cold enough to freeze the room. "I know everything." Nobody moved, nobody breathed. Adrian stared directly at his wife. "How long were you planning my funeral?" Vanessa's eyes filled with panic. "It's not what you think, really," Adrian interrupted softly. "Because it sounds exactly like murder." Marcus suddenly reached toward his jacket. Adrian immediately pulled a gun from beneath the table. Marcus froze. The room became completely silent. "You should sit back down," Adrian said calmly. And slowly Marcus obeyed. Adrian called the police, or at least that's what Vanessa believed. He deliberately spoke loudly while pretending someone was on speakerphone. Adrian said calmly, "I have evidence of attempted murder." Immediately broke down crying. Marcus remained terrifyingly quiet. Then Adrian noticed something strange. Marcus wasn't afraid. He was calculating. Suddenly the penthouse lights shut off. Darkness swallowed the room instantly. Adrian reacted immediately. "Move." A gunshot exploded through the darkness. Glass shattered. Vanessa screamed. Adrian dove behind the kitchen counter while another bullet tore through the wall. Marcus had brought a weapon. Of course he had. Emergency backup. The man had planned for everything. Adrian heard footsteps running through darkness. Then the elevator doors opened. Marcus was escaping. Adrian grabbed a flashlight and chased him. The hallway outside the penthouse was nearly black. Emergency lights flashed red overhead. Marcus sprinted toward the stairwell. Adrian followed, 30 floors above Manhattan. Rain hammered against the skyscraper windows while both men raced downward. Marcus fired another shot blindly behind him. The bullet struck the railing inches from Adrian's head. "You should have stayed asleep," Marcus shouted. Adrian kept running. Years of stress and exhaustion slowed him, but rage kept him moving. Marcus reached the rooftop access level and burst outside into the storm. Helicopter lights glowed faintly across the city skyline. Rain drenched both men instantly. Marcus turned holding the gun. "You already lost," he yelled. Adrian stared at him calmly. He replied, "You did the moment you got greedy." Rain poured violently across the rooftop. Wind howled between skyscrapers. Marcus aimed the gun directly at Adrian. "You think the police will believe you?" Marcus shouted. "People like us survive everything." Adrian stepped forward slowly. "You tried to kill me." Laughed bitterly, and you were too blind to notice. For a moment neither man moved, then Marcus said something unexpected. "Vanessa never loved you." Adrian's expression hardened. "She loved the life," Marcus smirked. "She said you were already dead long before we met." Rage exploded through Adrian instantly. Marcus fired. The bullet grazed Adrian's arm. Adrian tackled him violently. Both men crashed onto the rain-soaked rooftop concrete. The gun slid across the surface. Marcus punched Adrian repeatedly. Years of exhaustion weakened Adrian badly. Marcus nearly reached the gun again, until Adrian slammed him against the rooftop railing. Metal bent loudly. Marcus lost balance briefly. Then Adrian saw pure terror appear in his eyes for the first time. Marcus grabbed Adrian desperately. "You need me alive," he gasped. But Adrian slowly removed Marcus's hands. He whispered, "You needed me alive." Damaged railing snapped. Marcus fell backward into the stormy darkness below. His scream vanished beneath thunder. Adrian stood motionless in the rain, breathing heavily, blood mixing with rainwater on his face. Below him, police sirens finally echoed through Manhattan. Vanessa sat silently inside the penthouse while detectives searched the apartment. She looked completely broken now. Mascara running, hands trembling, the illusion of elegance finally destroyed. Adrian sat across from her quietly. For several minutes neither spoke. Then Vanessa whispered, "I didn't mean for it to go this far." Adrian stared at her coldly. "You poisoned me for 6 months," streamed down her face. "At first it was just sleeping pills." "Why?" Vanessa closed her eyes painfully. "Because Marcus convinced me you were becoming dangerous." Almost laughed. "Dangerous. You controlled everything," she whispered. "The company, the money, my life. So you decided to kill me." Vanessa broke down completely. "You were never home anymore," she screamed. The room fell silent afterward. Adrian looked at her for a long moment. Then finally he spoke quietly. "You could have left." Vanessa cried harder because deep down she knew he was right. Greed had simply become easier than honesty. Detectives eventually led her away in handcuffs. As Vanessa disappeared into the elevator, she turned back one final time. And for the first time since Adrian met her, He saw her exactly as she truly was, not beautiful, not elegant, just empty. 6 months later, Adrian Vale rarely slept more than 3 hours a night, not because of poison. Because betrayal changes people permanently. The penthouse felt colder now, quieter. The city skyline no longer looked beautiful, just distant, artificial. Marcus's death dominated headlines for weeks. Vanessa accepted a plea deal for attempted murder and conspiracy charges. The company survived. Adrian survived. But survival and healing are not the same thing. One evening, Adrian sat alone inside his office overlooking Manhattan while rain touched the windows softly. The same kind of rain from the night everything collapsed. His assistant entered carefully. "You have one last meeting tonight." Adrian nodded absent-mindedly, then she hesitated. "You okay?" Adrian stared at the city silently. After a moment, he finally answered. "Have you ever realized someone was pretending to love you?" His assistant didn't know how to respond. Adrian smiled faintly. "It changes the way you see everyone afterward." Later that night, Adrian walked home alone through crowded streets. For the first time in years, no bodyguards, no drivers, no meetings, just silence. As he entered the empty penthouse, he noticed something strange. The wine cabinet remained untouched. For months he couldn't even look at it. Now he walked toward it slowly, opened it, and poured the entire bottle down the sink. Then Adrian stood there quietly while the city lights flickered beyond the windows. Alive, betrayed, changed forever, but alive. And somewhere deep inside him, the man who once trusted too easily had finally disappeared.